Falling too fast to prepare for this. Tripping in the world could be dangerous. Everybody circling this.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today for the 5th event of our 12-part Sport, Tech, and Innovation series powered by FanSaves. Our Sports, Tech, and Innovation series is a bi-weekly virtual event focusing on the changing landscape of the sports industry through technology and innovative solutions which are overcoming traditional barriers. Throughout this series, we'll hear from some of the top sports executives and industry leaders and learn from their perspectives on how technology is making an impact within their organizations. We'll also hear from some of the hottest emerging sports tech startups who are driving change and revolutionizing the traditional sports industry. Today's event is focused on youth sports technology and the digital platforms driving this industry forward. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our FanSaves co-founder and CEO, Shannon Ferguson, who will be our timekeeper today.
Thank you guys so much for being here today. We are so excited to have to be featuring such amazing panelists, startups, and all of the great participants that are watching in from all over. Thank you guys, and get ready for a great event.
And thank you, Shannon. We would love to know where everyone is attending from today, so feel free to leave your LinkedIn URL and engage with the other attendees in the chat. Before we meet our esteemed panelists for today's event, we'd like to take a quick moment to thank all of our partners for their support of this series. Sports Tech Business Digest. Sports Tech Business Digest is your home for recent news about new and emerging sports technology. The founder and author, Costa Kladianos, has over 20 years experience in technology focused on the sports and entertainment business. Algonquin College. The Sports Business Management program prepares students for an exciting career in the ever-growing multi-billion-dollar sports industry. The program positions students to work in the management and business aspects of the sports industry. Events.com. Events.com is the preferred event management technology supporting events around the globe. Their mobile-first ticketing and registration platform is an event organizer's one-stop shop for payment processing, digital marketing, and sponsorship needs. To learn more, visit events.com. The University Sports Business Alliance. The mission of the USBA is to connect and grow university sport business clubs through a supportive alliance that aims to develop professional networks and industry skills. Their goals include improving the education opportunities available to all aspiring sports business professionals. Check them out on LinkedIn. And lastly, this event is powered by FanSaves. FanSaves is a sponsorship inventory asset enabling sports teams, athletes, and organizations to activate and engage their fans with sponsors. For more information about our platform, visit fansaves.com or connect with us on LinkedIn to set up a demo. A quick reminder before we begin, this event is being recorded and will be posted to our FanSaves YouTube channel. So without further ado, I am pleased to welcome our 4 esteemed panelists that will be taking part in today's event. Our first panelist and resident panelist, Costa Kladianos. Costa currently serves as the VP of Innovation and Technology at Canlan Ice Sports. He previously spent time in organizations like Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, the Canadian Football League, and Tennis Canada in positions in innovation and technology. Costa, thank you so much for joining us again here today.
Great to be here.
Awesome. Our second panelist today is Dana Bookman. Dana is the founder and CEO of Canadian Girls Baseball, as well as the VP of American Girls Baseball. Dana holds degrees from both Ryerson as well as Queen's University and was named one of the top 100 most influential people in Canadian baseball by the Canadian Baseball Network. Dana, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you.
Awesome. Next up, we have Melanie Bradley. Melanie is the general manager for Brams United Girls Soccer Club. She has almost a decade spent in the youth soccer space, and now she manages one of the leading female girls soccer clubs in all of Canada. Melanie, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today for this event.
Thank you for having me.
Perfect. And last but certainly not least, Emily Hewitt. Emily is the administrative manager at USA Team Handball. Emily holds a degree from Middlebury College in addition to her master's in sports management from Columbia University in the city of New York. Before joining USA Team Handball, she spent time with the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, as well as the National Women's Hockey League. Emily, it's so great to have you a part of this event today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you to all of our panelists participating in today's panelist discussion. We look forward to hearing all of your insights and thoughts about where the industry is heading. So to kick off our panelist discussion, I'm going to turn to Costa. Costa, you recently joined Canlan Ice Sports, which is the world's largest tournament operator with over 60 annual tournaments, totaling over 2,000 teams and 30,000 players annually, both youth and adult. Can you talk a little bit about some of the technologies that make it possible to organize and execute so many tournaments?
So in addition to the tournaments, we are also one of the largest private facility operators in North America for ice rinks. So bringing that all together and creating that experience with our teams and our programs and our youth programs involves platforms that can really interconnect them. So it's whether it's through registrations, booking ice time, through our F&B operations, through our customer experience, through Wi-Fi. We have to give that little bit of extra. So we have to make sure that our customers feel like they're in the NHL coming in, or that they're getting ready for the NHL. Because I mean, there's a lot of municipal operators out there where you can just go rent ice and play, but we want to go to that next level. We create experiences that are unparalleled. So from registering the ice, keeping your stats as a player, your schedules, the community that's created. We use technology to enable that across all our teams, all our programs, and the point is using technology as an enabler for next level experiences. And coming on, I've just been on there for a couple of months, and it's really taking that. How do we take that to the next level? How do we really create that unparalleled experience for our teams and our programs that cannot be found anywhere else? We compare ourselves to companies like Topgolf versus just other municipal rinks, because we're about experiences and we're about growing the game as well.
Yeah, really great insights there. Thank you, Costa, for that. I want to turn next to Dana. You're actually the founder and CEO of Canadian Girls Baseball and the VP of American Girls Baseball. Tell us about these grassroots organizations and how you have used technology to help raise awareness or create more accessibility for girls who want to play baseball.
Well, we started in 2016 with 44 girls, and we've grown since then to about 1,500 girls in different parts of the country. And I think that technology-wise, I mean, obviously, we didn't advertise, but through word of mouth, through social media, I mean, that's a big piece of what we do. And then in terms of the technology that we use to engage our players, we use different platforms where, for example, we take video to analyze skills of girls, to give them their feedback, slow motion videos. We do things like, especially with our little kids who love them, we have a platform that was created for us that kids or parents can upload pictures of their kids to create a baseball card for the players. And they get one of those at the end of every season, and they can put their own stats on it. So we try to engage them in a fun way through technology. You know, we also use it for our registration systems and our lineups and teams. And I know we'll get to this, but through COVID, technology was a huge piece for us to create a virtual platform for offering our programming across the country and around the world.
Perfect. Yeah, really great insights there to those organizations and how you've been able to grow youth baseball, especially with girls to date. Next, I want to turn to Melanie. At Brams United, you've been utilizing member feedback through surveys and consultations to create your 2019-2021 strategic plan. The plan focuses on the 4 pillars: governance, technical, community engagement, and leadership. What role does technology play in this plan, and why is it so important moving forward?
So I know with the pandemic, youth sports has really had to shift and utilize technology more, but the reality is that sports organizations should have been using technology well before. Ultimately, technology has helped Brams United with connecting with our membership much easier and in a more efficient manner. We see that Generation Ys are said to love living a busy life, and you do see it in the world of youth sports, where parents and families are constantly shuttling their children back and forth between sports and balancing work and personal life. So in 2019, we made the effort to shift a lot of items such as our meetings, collecting data and feedback, moving our workshops online to hopefully increase the engagement. And we did notice that families had less time to participate in these extracurriculars. This was also a year that we partnered with Fan Saves, and we started to offer our sponsors the added value to their contributions, and so they saw more engagement with their businesses as well. So that really helped on the governance component of our plan. I think the number one though for me was on the leadership side. And so this aligns well with our mission, vision, and values too. Technology allowed us to promote and share the stories of our female athletes and the upcoming female leaders in our communities. And so where it used to be very difficult for young girls and women to speak up, technology's created a platform and allowed them to connect with their peers and use their voices through the benefits of technology.
Yeah, really great to hear from Melanie, and that Brams United has really adopted technology into their strategy moving forward. I think that's so important. Next, I'd love to turn to Emily, and I've got a bit of a two-part question for you here, Emily. How is the excitement from the American men's national team, who just qualified for the World Championships for the first time in over 20 years, helping to ramp up your youth development program? And the second part of that question is, what technologies or platforms are key to USA team handball in recruiting players or raising awareness for diversity inclusion within the sport?
Sure. So to kick it off, it's very exciting that we've qualified for Worlds for the first time in, as you mentioned, 20 years. This is the most publicity our sport gets outside of the Olympics, and our teams haven't qualified for the Olympics since 1996. So this is really exciting. We really want to, this for a lot of young men and women, or boys and girls across the country, this will be their first time seeing team handball. And in 8 years, just under 8 years, we actually have an automatic bid to the 2028 games. And so we are hoping that we can really inspire youth to think of themselves as possibly being able to put on the red, white, and blue and compete for Team USA in 8 years. And hopefully that's going to really kickstart more youth involvement. We also want to really tell the stories of those homegrown American players like Drew Donlin, who started playing team handball just up the road from me at USA, the U.S. Air Force Academy, and players like Gary Hines, who actually started playing in Atlanta in the boys and girls clubs. So we really want to make sure that those athlete stories are being told, and mostly we are using social media for that. Especially we've launched into TikTok, which has had a tremendous amount of success for us, as it has for many other NGBs and companies across the US and Canada. And from that, actually, we had so much engagement from our first few videos that my communications manager, Melissa Zhang, actually created an athlete intake form on our website where we're collecting athlete information. We've also developed 2 programs that are specifically targeting youth development, one of which is our Youth Advisory Council, which is 11, 14 to 18-year-olds who come up with ideas and create content for us, mostly targeting YouTube and Yik Yak. At 26 years old, it is the oldest I've ever felt. But I'm learning a lot from them every week. And then also our ambassador program, which targets 5 markets in the area and focuses more on grassroots. So they go into youth groups and boys and girls clubs and go in with equipment and the tools to teach handball, one of which is a software company which we're partnered with called Sideline Sports, which is a coaching tool which all of our clubs and developing clubs are able to use. Everyone from, you know, the grassroots all the way up to the national team are able to use it. And it helps with lesson plans and things like that to help increase the competitive level across the country.
Yeah, that's really great to hear that the amount of diverse platforms you're using to reach those future Team USA handball players. So a really cool insight there. I want to flip back to Costa for this next question. Youth sports tech comes in many forms: training aids, team management software, sponsorship technologies, and communication platforms, to name a few. What is one company that you've seen make a big splash in youth sports tech? And what part of the industry is, in your opinion, need of disruption?
With youth sports, it's not one company, one platform. I think it's about creating that sense of community and engaging youth through their devices. Because I mean, the mantra in sports has always been, okay, how do we get people off of their phones and playing? Well, you're never going to get people off of their phones. It's how do we engage them through their phones? So it's how do we create that community? How can you gamify what they're doing? So are they playing against their friends? Are they getting stats? Are they doing prizes? Is there some video analysis for how they can get better through their practices? And then plugging that into one platform. That's really the key in engaging them. And I've always said it's not about one company. It's about solving an issue that you see, and then using the right tool for the situation. So I'm really big on video analysis, gamification, and creating that mobile platform that kids can use that can, you know, you're not going to get them off playing video games and esports, but it's just bringing physical activity and sports into their lives in more than just the physical arena there.
Yeah, for sure. And you make a really good point, and that's where we need to be meeting, you know, our youth to encourage them to, you know, play youth sports and to get involved with these programs that are on those platforms that they're already using and engaged with. So a really good insight and feedback there from you, Costa. Thank you for that. Dana, for the next question, we'd love to hear more about the Canadian Girls Baseball virtual program and how that has kept your players engaged throughout the pandemic from home.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you about it. So when COVID hit, we had to cancel our spring season like so many other youth sports and Major League Sports had to do. So we were really searching for a way to engage. And what we came up with was a virtual season. So basically we created a series of, we run 8-week programs. So we created a series of 8 videos, one for each week, using different players of different ages and different sizes and different colors. So we could really make players feel connected. And our head coach put the videos together and explained different techniques. And in it, so we sent those out every week. And in addition to that, we had a couple of other elements. We had an interactive element. So we'd have a Zoom meeting every Sunday morning so girls could join in our program. And then we had, we called it Baseball Bingo, where anybody who completed, I mean, either a row or a full card would get sent a prize. Usually we give girls a little bit of Canadian Girls Baseball swag every year. So, or every season. So we sent that to anybody who completed our 8-week session, and it was completely free. So what we found was that we were not only engaging our players, our 1,500 players, but also we had players. I mean, girls don't have a lot of access to baseball traditionally anywhere in the world. So we had players from Asia and Africa. We had European players and players from across the country who had never heard of us. So it was a great way to spread the word and to see how many girls are out there who really need access to sports and baseball in particular. You know, I like to say it's one of a really great sport in terms of resilience and engagement and teamwork and all of those pieces. Not that there's anything wrong with soccer and handball, but so it was a successful virtual season, and now we just have to figure out, you know, how and if we have to build on that, where we go next, which, you know, hopefully I'll get some ideas here.
Totally. And I guess if there's like a silver lining to this pandemic, it's technology has emerged with ways where we can reach more potential players and really make it more inclusive for everyone to kind of enjoy the sports that we all love. I want to turn to Melanie for a similar question. With some of the seasons canceled due to the pandemic, you've been able to pivot and create the Brams United virtual training program. Why don't you tell us about that and the feedback that you've received from the program so far?
Yeah, so similar to baseball, we did have to cease our programming back in March. And so we knew that quickly we had to adapt to the changes. But back in March, we were only expecting to maybe be shut down for 4 to 6 weeks. And so that quickly turned into months, and we knew that this was going to be the new norm for a long time. So when we originally had started, we had done 3 to 4 times a week virtually through utilizing Zoom, and it was led by a coach, and it was similar hours to what they were doing in person. So the attendance was great at first, but the participation rate started to drop after that 4 to 6 weeks. So utilizing technology, we quickly went throughout a survey to the participants and asked, you know, what was the purpose and reasoning for them dropping out of participating 3 to 4 times a week. And some of the data that was provided to us showed us that the girls were becoming mentally exhausted participating on camera for so many hours, especially when they went back to school. And they were starting to feel unmotivated without competitions such as games, and that it was becoming a bit repetitive, and that was daunting for them. So again, we had to pivot when we had to shut down in September. and we had to meet the needs of our athletes first and foremost. So we modified the programming to be still technical, so with a ball and movement twice a week, but for only 30 minutes. So very quick, fast-paced sessions. But then we also introduced a mentoring session on the weekend, which was really, it allowed them to decompress, and they actually speak with a professional female soccer player, Tiffany Cameron, and she gives them advice as to how she's dealing with the pandemic and how she can relate to them, and advice from her age and experience, which is really good for the athletes. So utilizing technology again, right, to reach out to the membership, adapt and pivot. And so that's where we're at right now, is just 2 very quick sessions, a mentoring session, and then we also provide some online tools. So we have a hub, and it's not all soccer. Some of it is coloring pages, online libraries, just a way for them to stay engaged with the organization and connected with their teams, but still having that interest.
Yeah, and some more great examples of how you've utilized technology to continue to engage with your players and your stakeholders. So I appreciate that that insight from you, Melanie. Turning back to Emily for our last question of this panelist discussion. USA Team Handball has recently announced a partnership with Verizon, and they've become the sponsor of your Facebook Live series. Why don't you tell us about the series and some of the goals in which it strives to meet?
Yeah, so pretty much this series was born out of the fact, like, what all the other panelists talked about. We couldn't have our in-person events, so all the things that we were planning to really like activate with Verizon, like our Open Nationals, Collegiate Nationals, and even our North American Championships for the men to qualify for Egypt, were all canceled. So we had to find another way to kind of like execute on our goals with Verizon, and we thought the Facebook Live series would be a fun kind of way to do that, to cover a lot of different topics, to engage with our audience, both new fans and old fans. A good example of that is one of my most recent sessions that I hosted was focused on athlete development, and so we had members of the USOPC coaching staff, and then our 2 top youth coaches come together and have a great conversation, whereas Melissa, my colleague's most recent, was a 1972 and 1976 Olympian reunion, which was hysterical, but definitely a different tone than mine. But we really want to kind of capitalize on the goals that Verizon has had through the pandemic, one of which is small businesses. A lot of our constituents work for small businesses, own small businesses, or like a lot of our national team players are really only getting through because of their local small businesses. So we want to give a chance, on the athlete's side, to like shout out the ones that are helping them get through the day, get through this time, continue to train, continue to get better. And on the other side, our Olympians who are now working for a small business, for them to kind of shout out what they're doing and that kind of stuff. So it's been a cool kind of intersection between sport and Verizon's main goals during the pandemic.
That's really great insight. It's great to hear how you've not only continued to engage the grassroots youth athletes, but also keep the sponsors engaged with the fans and the players of the community. So kudos for that. And at this point of the event, I would like to thank all of our panelists for their incredible insights and perspectives about how technology is playing a role in the youth sports industry. So thank you all for that. Before we introduce the founders who will be presenting their startups for feedback from our panelists, let me tell you how this is all going to go down. Each startup will have 3 minutes to present their company, which will be followed by feedback from each of our panelists. Game On Mobile will start us off first, presenting, followed by Staybillety. Then Wildkard will present last, followed by feedback from our panelists. All right, let's get started. So first up, we have Kyle, who will be presenting Game On Mobile. Kyle, if you could share your screen, your 3 minutes will begin once you start speaking.
Beautiful, thanks, Chris. All right, so I'm Kyle Hoges, founder and CEO of Game On Mobile. I'm gonna do my best here to cram this into 3 minutes. So what is Game On Mobile? Game On Mobile is a cloud platform that we designed for sport leagues and tournaments. Conveners are always looking for ways to engage their audience, engage the players and the fans. and keep connected with them. And what we find is that, they really needed a tool to connect to not only just the coaches and the players, but also, to the fans as well. So it's a cloud-based platform. We've gained over 2 million users. We've quickly become a very popular game day platform. We've got a couple thousand leagues and tournaments. So I thought I'd give you a quick overview here of what kind of the platform looks like really quickly. So it starts with a convener signing up on our platform, going through the registration process. We take them through a wizard where they set up their divisions, their teams, they put in the venues. Once that's done, they can import their schedule or upload their schedule. And once the schedule comes online, all the players, fans, organizers can access the schedule on their mobile phones through our Android and iPhone app. They can favorite their teams and see the scores, get directions to their venues, and the convener can also blast out announcements through the app, which would show up on their phone as a push message, kind of like a text message type thing. As we all know, sports has changed a lot in the last few months with COVID-19. We find, gone are the days where you show up at a tournament and there's 200 people in the lobby looking at the whiteboard, trying to find out who's in first place, who's going to Sunday. With social distancing and such, that's not possible. So our platform gives these conveners a way to bring, the tournament into the digital world and connect with the players. Using the built-in announcement feature, they can blast out COVID-19 guidelines. We run some tournaments that are 750 teams with 80 arenas, and every arena is in a different region with different COVID-19 guidelines. So we find the announcement tool is a great way for them to get that information out. This is just a quick snapshot of some of the large organizations we work with. Typically, they're state organizations, provincial and national organizations. Typically, we approach them, we run their state tournaments or provincial tournaments or nationals, instill some confidence of our platform and show them that we know what we're doing. Our platform is solid. Once we do that, we find that, they believe in us and trust us and don't mind flowing it down to their associations below them. We provide them with a discount code and also an opportunity for revenue share as well. Quickly, you can just see all the different sports on the platform. We see, everything under the sun come through. It's always great to see some different sports come through. So I think my 3 minutes is up. I'm Kyle Hoges again. Thanks for listening.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. Great presentation. Just a quick reminder to unshare your screen. There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much. And for feedback, why don't we begin with Costa?
All right. And I'm not muted this time. We're good. So I think that's great. Thanks for that presentation, Kyle. This is a space, I think, where there's a lot of room for growth. I'm really close to it with the ASHL and our youth programs. There's a couple of big players out there, but I definitely don't think it's saturated. So I think it's a great one to go in. One of the things, and you may have already covered it, I know we only have 3 minutes, just kind of from my point of view, what I look for is how can we leverage the data on the back end to really customize the experience for our customers and find new customers. And the data is really super important, just as important as the front end customer experience. And then if there's a potential to integrate with our other systems. So for example, of a back-end CRM that we would be running, or our finance systems to automatically collect the payments and put them in there. It's super important to make sure that it's all interoperable. Again, you might have this in your platform. I'm just saying what's important when we look there, but I think it's really good. And this is a space that, unlike a lot of technology areas, it's not saturated. So I like it.
Great feedback, Costa. Kyle and Costa, we definitely encourage you to connect after the event and look more into that. But great feedback. We appreciate that, Costa. Why don't we go next to Dana and hear what your thoughts were about the presentation?
I'm definitely not as familiar with this kind of platform. We only run one tournament a year, but when I look at it, I think it's amazing. I know from our registration platforms that a lot of the things Costa was saying ring true for me. We had a lot of trouble and a lot of struggles with our registration software, finding something that had all-in-one and that would remember people and that would take payments and all of the pieces. There were a lot of different ones that had different pieces. So to find all of that together was a big deal. But I mean, it looks impressive. It shows really nicely, and it's something I would look at for running our tournament. I guess I would look at, is there a minimum number of teams and a maximum number? Because we're small and cost for use, I guess, and days of tournaments and those kinds of things, just for like the smaller users like us. We only have a 15 or 20 team tournament once a year. So, yeah, but good job.
Great feedback, Dana. Thank you. I would love to hear next from Melanie and get your feedback.
Yeah, so I think really great software there. We run an in-house recreational tournament, and right away I thought, well, this would alleviate a lot of the pressure that I go through with Excel documents and trying to get data up on the website to share what the scores have been and so forth with families. I think Costa and Dana touched on it, that it's integrating it with the systems that we utilize with our registration and collecting payments as the number one thing. So I think that would be the number one point to look at, is that, you know, do I work, or can I integrate my data in with the registration systems that these organizations are already utilizing?
Perfect. Thank you, Melanie. And Emily, would love to hear your thoughts as well on the presentation.
Definitely. First of all, just the COVID stuff I think is so fantastic from my experience with COVID so far, like COVID event stuff so far. It's like herding cats. So having that pushed out like directly would be awesome for us. I think I come from a very similar place to Dana in terms of what everyone's mentioned, kind of the one-stop shop kind of element as well, just like cost. We're a very small, we're like 1,000 members, and our nationals are even smaller than that. So cost and accessibility and things like that would be really my next questions kind of about it. So I think you did a great job, and I think it seems like really cool software.
Very cool. Thank you, Emily. Great feedback from all of our panelists. And I definitely invite you to all connect after the presentation. But we want to move right along. Next up, we have Barbara presenting Staybillety. So Barbara, if you could share your screen, your 3 minutes will begin once you start speaking.
Oops. Okay. Hi, my name is Barbara Jones. I'm the founder and CEO of Staybillety.com. Thank you for your time and interest, and specifically thanks to the FanSaves team. I'm delighted to be here today to share Staybillety's global vision with you and to show you a way to reduce the barrier to participation that accommodations can represent. Staybillety is the online home sharing and short-term rental platform serving groups and organizations and their communities. As we like to say, shared interest, shared roof, staying alike. So similar to my colleague Kyle, let's address the elephant in the room. You're wondering, home sharing during a pandemic? In fact, while international travel does remain down, companies in the short-term rental space are seeing domestic travel rebound, particularly in the US. Homestays are coming back faster than hotels, and eMarketer's recent forecast projects continued year-over-year growth in short-term rentals. And of course, if you're reading the headlines, you know that Airbnb is expected to IPO next week. At Staybillety, we are planning and prospecting for post-pandemic. So what does that look like? The global home sharing market is expected to reach over $132 billion in annual sales by 2022, and we're looking to capture about 1.5% of that market. Before launching our prototype, we surveyed about 300 potential end users, including Hockey Canada, and people who indicated they're part of existing communities of interest, and definitely in the sports space. 39% indicated interest in being a Staybillety host, though only 4% had hosted on other short-term rental platform sites. So our business model is really tapping into that economy of trust. We call our partner clients affiliates, they're colleges and universities, they're groups and organizations, and our platform helps them serve their communities and tribes. And here's how and why. Groups and organizations like sports groups, service clubs, alumni associations, they're struggling to engage their communities and raise funds. And certainly that's not going to go away post-pandemic. Staybillety is a platform as service, as I mentioned, and we bring home sharing to groups and organizations. We're a solution to increase community engagement in a new and relevant way. And most importantly, in today's climate, we're a platform to help those groups and organizations generate some revenue. We are about community and leveraging the power of community. Our affiliate tribes, like Syracuse University's Orange Nation, see us as a partner in increasing community engagement. They benefit, the host benefits, and they're strengthening ties with the school. Our affiliates past and, whoops, I put these out of order. We're the only home sharing service that's focused on this affiliate partnership model. We're a platform as service. Our affiliates and their communities are who we're here to serve. We are not in the commodity game. And these are some of our past and present events, university, national, international sports organizations that are Staybillety affiliates. We generate our revenue from affiliate fees, booking fees, what percentage of which goes back to our partners, and advertising. And I would be delighted to share detail in a one-on-one meeting. Our leadership team has international experience in several related industries. We have some serious bench strength with advisors in Canada and the US from the entrepreneurship, travel, and media worlds. I've been working in media and technology for over 30 years. I was on the team that designed and launched travelchannel.com, and I led the launch of weather.com's international businesses and websites. And I believe in really building strong, diverse teams and ultimately letting them do their jobs. So that is the quick share. That is Staybillety. I thank you for your time and attention. Hopefully made it inside 3, and let's connect soon.
Fantastic presentation, Barbara. Thank you so much. And just a friendly reminder to unshare your screen. And for feedback, why don't we begin with Dana?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. So I think it's a great idea. Look, we had, I mentioned our tournament earlier, and we had teams that we were talking to from Africa, and one of the big barriers to them coming, or one of the complicated factors, was where do they stay and how are we going to find some place for them? And, you know, it's sort of, we were hoping for goodwill from others, but this takes a lot of the guesswork out of that. So I think it's a really great concept, and it looks like it's a success. I mean, again, another very well produced website, so that's nice to see too. And it makes it look easy. So that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great feedback. Thank you, Dana. Melanie, what are your thoughts on the presentation?
So really well thought out presentation. I loved the flow of it. For me, I think the number one thing that comes to mind, and something that we've been looking at as an organization, is a way to partner up with our local hotels and motels to, when we do host a tournament, is there a way that we can push the traffic through to their businesses, and then in turn maybe there's some sponsorship back to the organization. So I'm not sure if this is something that you guys have looked at and might be able to offer, but for me I think that would be a big thing as well.
Yeah, we play nice with hotels. There are some ways that we've worked because we appreciate that that's a model that's been around for a long time. And we are an unusual entrant into that space. So I'd be delighted to chat with you about strategies around that offline, Melanie.
Perfect. Otherwise,
awesome. Great feedback, Melanie. Thank you. Moving right along, we would love to hear, Emily, your feedback on the presentation.
I thought it was awesome as well. I think the partnership with universities is definitely a really cool kind of space, especially because we have like a collegiate nationals and stuff, and so it's hard to find rooms in like West Point, New York. But my question would be kind of off of that as well. But what I was thinking about is we kind of end up in weird places across the US where it's like not really a like super hub, and so kind of I'd be curious what the market looks like in the more kind of rural areas.
Yeah, actually, that's where we have, and I don't want to cut into a whole bunch of time, but we actually are, can benefit organizations like your own in that where there maybe aren't all kinds of hotels available in those communities where you're going, tapping into the extra spaces that people have in that community is a way to reduce your costs, but also engage that community in your event.
Perfect. Thank you for your feedback, Emily, and Barbara for that response. And I guess lastly, we'll turn to Costa for his thoughts on the presentation.
Yeah, no, again, thanks for that, Barbara. That was great. And, you know, I do work with, in my spare time with some travel baseball teams, obviously not to the level of Dana, but, you know, I still like to help them out. And I think it's a great option because accommodations are super tough. And I think, I mean, we all talk about travel going down during the pandemic. I mean, pandemics are temporary. It's going to end. And then when it ends, there's all this pent up demand for people to go. I know I have it. I mean, I pretend I'm in San Francisco in the back, but I'm not as lucky as Arjun here. But, you know, we always go to the Florida and we always go to the Airbnb, and the Airbnb experience has gotten too big. It's like you said, it's gotten commodity. So I think there's room for other players in the space. And you know, if you could hook me up with something in Florida, I have no problems there. We can take that off.
I think we'd all love to be in the sun right now. Great feedback, Costa. Thank you for that. And thank you, Barbara, for that presentation. Fantastic job.
Thank you so
Up
much.
next, we have Arjun from Wildkard. And Arjun, if you could share your screen, your 3 minutes will begin once you start speaking.
Sorry, I was going to say, thank you, Chris. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. Good to meet you. My name is Arjun, co-founder and CEO of Wildkard, based here in Silicon Valley. My background is, grew up as an athlete and a programmer, and my passion is at the intersection of sports and tech. Wildcard is founded on the conviction and the belief that over the next 5 to 10 years, youth sports experiences are fundamentally going to change. There are a few different trends that are driving this tailwind. For example, like there will be no differentiation between online and offline. Currently, youth sports is mostly an offline experience, mostly an in-person experience. The pandemic has kind of forced everyone to like adopt Zoom and other tools. We feel that's going to blur. We feel like there are going to be rise of these hyper-engaged local communities because youth sports at the end of the day is a community experience on the weekend for parents and fans. So Wildcard is after the problem that youth sports is a massively underserved market from a tech standpoint. There's disengagement at the athlete level. There's too many tools out there to manage your teams. There's an experience that ends in the pitch. The communities are scattered all over social media. It's ripe for reinvention. So the way we describe Wildcard is a social platform for teams and communities. So not only can you organize your teams, which is like all of the stuff around registration, scheduling, payments, and so forth, but the real value and the power comes in when you bring this kind of multi-generation community together in an innovative way so that they have a space online where they can exist. You know, Wildcard's value proposition is boost engagement and eliminate grunt work. We do the stuff in the bottom, but the real value proposition of Wildcard is the stuff at the top. I think so. There was someone kind of explaining this earlier in the presentation about you know, engaging fans and parents. So Wildcard takes that to the next level. We are a very young company, by the way. We've only been out there for 2 months. We've got, you know, we've got a good set of teams. We're growing pretty fast. It doesn't cost anything right now. So if you guys have teams and you want to experiment with a new Silicon Valley platform, get in touch. A lot of people ask me, why now, right? Why is this important right now? And my answer to that is gaming and esports has fundamentally transformed and changed consumer expectations. They want that similar experience with sports. And then the rise of niche platforms, right? I think many of you may have heard of these, but these are really powering these tailwinds around the youth sports communities. You can see, you know, the growth advisor at TikTok was kind enough to throw us a quote about, you know, the tailwinds being strong for Wildcard. From a team standpoint, it's me and Raj. Raj is an engine manager at Google. I currently have an engineering manager job at Amazon. So we are both very, very technical. And Raj is a parent. His son is training to be a pro baseball athlete for the San Francisco Giants. So we are very intrinsically motivated by this field. And our ultimate mission is to deliver an engaging experience to 1 billion kids worldwide. Now, typically, I'm not a slides kind of person. I like to like get real and you know, show you guys exactly what it is. But I don't know, Chris, if I have 30 seconds.
Yes, I do believe you have 30 seconds. So if you wanted to take 30 seconds.
About 20 seconds if you can fit it in.
Yeah. So you're looking at the Wildcard experience that anyone would see: parent, athlete, coach, fan, right? On the home screen, you see a list of your teams. So I'm going to go into one of my teams. Think of this as a space for your team. Now, this may sound abstract to us, millennials and Gen Xers, but for a Gen Z, it is a real space where they exist. This is a team space, and it's a multimodal feature. It's not just a group chat. You can train your teams here. You can organize your teams here. You can get feedback. You can see, like, I'm sending some virtual challenges to kids during the holidays right here. Again, I just wanted to show you one example of what the experience is and how it blends with the in-person experience for the kid. So we're, like I said, we're a young company. We're still accepting some teams if you folks are open to piloting, and we'd love to get in touch and answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Arjun. Great presentation. And for feedback, why don't we begin this time with Melanie?
So very good presentation. Really definitely caught my attention. It's something that we've been dabbling in. We work with a company from England called My Personal Football Coach. And when you showed that slide at the end there about the challenges, that's what caught my attention, because right now we're not sure what the children are doing at home and if they are keeping a ball at their feet and staying active. And so this resource to be able to throw a challenge in, whether it's, you know, do a silly dance or try a couple keep ups, we're engaging with those children while they're at home, and they're not forgetting about our organization. So that was really interesting and caught my attention, and I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more.
Awesome. Why don't we turn next to Emily for her thoughts about the presentation.
Yeah, awesome. I thought it was really cool. I think I mean, youth sports is something that, like, as you mentioned, is very underserved in terms of the tech thing. This is more of like a culture thing, but I feel like we've seen this increase in, you know, the like soccer moms to like 10x kind of thing where they're so involved. And I like wonder with a platform like this if it would put more pressure on athletes young athletes as opposed to like more encouraging community, as you were talking about. So that was kind of what I was thinking about, just in terms of continuing to make sure that fun comes over results.
Great feedback, Emily. Thank you. And why don't we turn to Costa next for your feedback on the presentation?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm right next door to Arjun here, so we were just talking in San Fran. But, you know, and I think it's a great product. I featured it on my site before, earlier on, that Sports Business Digest. I think what it does is it addresses that gamification for youth, and it keeps them engaged. And I think that's what's important when we were talking earlier about tools to address the problems instead of the other way around. I think that's what it does. So, you know, I see a bright future in it. I know it's just getting off the ground, but they've already got some great traction on it. And there's a lot of areas where it can really engage the youth and get them back to the physical playing while engaging them through their devices. So I think definitely going in the right direction there.
Awesome. Great feedback, Costa. And why don't we turn to Dana for final thoughts about the presentation?
I'm very interested in it. I mean, unlike Melanie, I haven't come across anything like this before. I do find, like Costa was saying, engagement is, I mean, I would think that it's engaging. I find that with our players, it's hard to engage them online. You know, we have some younger ones, and like Emily was saying, how much parent involvement is there? So I have some questions. I don't know if it's right for us, but I think that it's really an interesting concept that is definitely worth exploring, and good job.
Outstanding. Well, with that, this concludes the 5th event of our Sports Tech and Innovation Series powered by FanSaves. I want to thank all of our panelists for taking their time today to give their insights on youth sports technology. And I'd also like to thank all of our presenting startups today for presenting their companies with us here today. I invite you to join us Thursday, December 3rd at 1 p.m. for our next event focusing on collegiate tech. Quick reminder that this event will be posted to our FanSaves YouTube channel. Thank you again to all of our partners and for everyone who attended this event today. To learn more about FanSaves or to request a demo, please reach out to me on LinkedIn or connect with us through our website. You can follow our social media pages for all updates and information about future events. And with that, I wish you the best the rest of your week, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
I do what it takes.